What's up, everybody? This is No Bandwagon Jumper. Sunday afternoon, Sunday night. Waiting for the Patriots and the Colts to come on. Uh, it's my Crow video. Dallas Cowboys, fell for the trap game against Packers. Uh, it started early when Colombo went out. I think pretty much anybody would have said, we were in trouble. As soon as he went out, that's a tough person to lose right there. Bring in Doug Free. I mean, I don't know that. I think that put a lot of pressure on Tony Romo right there. The line wasn't holding up after that. Um, but really, when it came down to it, all the damn penalties and just the fact that the Packers, like we kept, they have them on third down and they'd either get it, they'd either convert, or we'd give up a big penalty and give them the first down, and they just kept moving the ball, and just time of possession just kept ranking up for the Packers, and they pretty much owned us today, and I guess I got to give them their props. They really needed this win. As far as us, the Dallas Cowboys, um, the loss was kind of softened a little bit just for the fact that Giants were at a bye week, so they didn't you know well, they won because Dallas and Philly lost. So, but Giants are still 5-4. We're 6-3. We're still in first place. Eagles lost, and that helped us. That really softened the blow. And way I see it is, um, we're still in pretty good position. In first place, and that's the way I like things to be. Of course, I would have wished we would have won that game, and more so because if you seen my last video, I fucking roasted my nuts, and basically for nothing. I guess the football spirits, they don't reward stupidity, cause yeah, that was a dumbass thing to do, and then the Cowboys lost. So now my nuts hurt even more, just for the fact to know that it was all in vain. You know, don't really know too many Packers fans that I really talk to on here. Um, give props to Indian Packers. Um, seen that little C-Pain video you made. That was pretty hilarious. You're always coming up with new stuff. Props to your Packers. Your season's still alive. Y'all what, 5-4? That maybe y'all can push past the Giants, and Giants got like one of the hardest, if not the hardest, schedule of remaining games for the rest of the season, or whatever, in the NFC. So perhaps maybe y'all can push in to get that wild card spot over the Giants. And that's just saying, if everything was to fall like how it is right now, because it's still a long season, and we all know how the Cowboys have been known to choke around this time of year. So it's not over. Just because we're in first place doesn't mean that it's just gonna get handed to us from now on. We got to go out there and capitalize on the game. Basically, we got to come up with the W. Uh, Throughout this whole game today, it was just injury after injury. Jenkins and Brady James came out for a little bit. Of course, he came back in. Ken Hamlin got hurt. And then of course, like I said, I think Colombo has got a broken fibula or something like that. It's It was bad all the way through. They dominated us. It's time of possession. I hated seeing that, especially because I got Romo on a couple of my fantasy football teams, and he just how you supposed to do anything if the ball you know is in the hands of the Packers. And then Roy Williams, he finally comes up big, gets the 100 yards receiving, whatever. But he did have that key drop as well as that stupid ass fumble, and just the small things could change a close game into it could have been a W for us. But I'm not gonna make excuses. We just didn't get it done. Packers won. Props to y'all. I don't really know what else there really is for me to say. Uh, I will never ever do the icy hot challenge ever again. Uh, that's not part of this crow video. That wasn't even a bet as far as Cowboys losing. I mean, I wanted it to be, but I just did it in the sense of trying to summon the football spirits. Hopefully the Cowboys win, and of course they didn't, so I looked even more like a total dumbass. But sitting here looking at the highlights of you're talking to Aaron Rodgers. I guess that's it. Peace out. No bandwagon jumper. Catch me next week, I guess. If I'm not too busy to make a video, I got all this Navy stuff I got to take care of. Leave December 15th, so Thanksgiving is right here, and just gotta get everything in line. We gotta get it done next week. I think we play the Redskins, and I was pretty surprised to see the Redskins beat the Broncos today, but that's the NFL. Every NFL team is capable of winning. So, peace out.